everyone. Today we have our another new episode. This is our 1185 episode, and we will discuss on futuristic educations. You know that World Talent Economy Forum, we always work as an advocate for modern science, engineering, and technology. Let us now gang the audience sentiment. Please vote on your views regarding the effectiveness of human AI future collaborations in education. We already collaborate with the Future Labs, and we have our keynote speaker, Professor Moses Ma. We have our world famous politician, Dr. Talib Rafael. We have another friends from Tando, he's a Tando fellow, Mr. Nitbar, and Tando president, Professor Fred Philip. You know, World Talent Economy Forum, we are collaborating with all of the think tanks around the world, many high quality universities, and especially we are working with North South University, University of Western Australia, and Curtin University to develop a knowledge oriented society in Asia Pacific. Before voting, let me know introduce the physics, one of the tech company. They already collaborate with us. It's a revolutionary platform that simplify sentiment analysis. Current method of capture uses sentiments often lack nonsense, are over complex, and can be confusing. Physics offer a 2D slide interference with the spectrums of colors and broad colors, and allowing respondent to express their opinion clearly. Today's sessions, how hopeful are you about the collaboration between human tutors and AI shaping the futures of collaborations? Already, Professor Moses Ma has innovations, and we are supporting this innovation brainstorm board. Not only his lab, North South University, from our research centers, we are publishing papers, doing research in agriculture, artificial intelligence with his brainstorm board. In this example, there is a blue represent extreme. You can check it from our comment options. You can utilize it. And while red signal extremely low, it's mean that we have to work on this opinion. You can easily slide along with the spectrum to indicate your opinion, providing valuable insight in real time. So definitely we do focus on audience. So we have 20,000 audience in our social media network. Besides that, we heavily promote our content to different university around the world. Uh, so in that particular education, as we embrace the future of education, the collaboration between human teachers and AI tutors holds immense promising for transforming learning outcome and shaping the next generation of learners. By leveraging technology to enhance teaching and learning practice, educators can empower students to thrive in an increasingly complex and interconnected worlds. Let's work together. Let's go for the discussions. And I just want to share the logo of the company who is actually helping us to do more research on audience, bringing more outcome for our audience. And this is the company. I want to give special thanks to Mr. Dan for your continuous support for World Talent Economy Forum. And you know, we do focus on research and innovation, so we are getting huge support from this organization. We have our speaker, Professor Moses Mar, Dr. Talib Rafael, Professor Fred Philip, and Mr. Nit. I want to give chance Professor Moses Mar. Professor Moses.
So I should start now.
Yes.
So, okay. Shall I present the slides now or just do an introduction?
You can share your slides and.
Okay, so let me tell you about what we're working on. Here we go. Here it's going. Okay, your system, it's new to me, so I need to
It's
upload.
a present button. Then you can go for share screen.
Share screen. Okay, let me do that. Present button, share screen. Okay. Is it working?
No.
Let me see. Select the tab to share. Window. Here. Share. How about now?
I think yes.
Okay. So two things I'll talk about. One is our first generative AI product is called BrainstormBot. You can find it at brainstormbot.ai. What we wanted to do was use the power of large language models to understand the process that people use to brainstorm. So we weren't interested so much in one-on-one brainstorming as to have an entire group or network of people do it simultaneously. When you do brainstorming in a room with a dozen people, it's a lot more powerful than when you do it with just one other person. So our system has AIs that watch conversational flow and energy and can actually go in and help you with that. So that product is live on the Slack marketplace. We were looking for a substrate or a system that allows for conversations to happen. And so we're doing real-time facilitation of brainstorms over that. And it's the first product of that type. We did just partner with I can't announce the name yet. It's the world's largest professional organization, Society for Innovation. And we did partner with the largest conference and magazine for innovation as well. So that's available now. We can tell you more about it shortly. But what I want to talk to you about today is AI Mastermind. We're very interested in not only the process of brainstorming, but how people learn. Can you accelerate the process of human learning using AI? So we have a system that is being built now. So it does many things, but the one use case we wanted to address first is AI job losses. It is estimated that the World Economic Forum just estimated that 85 million jobs would be impacted by generative AI in the next 2 years. And there's very little training right now to help people to prepare for it. So the CEO of Coursera said that he thinks that this will be more disruptive than COVID when it hits later this year. So we were thinking the best thing we could do to prevent what would look like what we call the Hunger Games of AI is to have massively scalable AI skills training. How can you actually use AI to do that? So the way we're doing that is we're setting up a course which uses many principles. Like we actually start with the joy of learning an AI tool, and then we actually pivot to practical uses. In our case, we pivot to core innovation skills, which is another form of creativity. So we try to keep it fun, and we are also very good at things like mindfulness to help people focus. And what we're doing with that now is uh, we're deploying a mastermind where people are going to use the technology and then talk to each other in order to peer coach each other. Then we will take that data that they produced, talking to each other and supporting each other in the process of learning, and then use that to train an AI to actually support and augment those skills in the future. So we're using AI to look and learn from the process of good pedagogy or peer coaching, and then absorb that information and then reuse it to support humans in learning how to learn AI skills more rapidly. So we're hoping that this is uh, going to be something like a Manhattan Project for human potential, because we need to train about 100 million people over the next 2 to 3 years, which means it has to be massively scalable, AI driven, and it has to be open source, that so it's completely free for anybody who wants it. So we're doing that, and we have something called the human model. It's how you create human centric software that talks about, like, one of the rules is any company going that is going to do layoffs, they have to provide AI skills training 3 to 6 months before they begin layoffs in order to give people a chance to catch up. We do have the support of a tier one university, which I can announce in the next 2 weeks. And when that happens, I will let you know. But we're pairing this with their annual academic conference, which has 70,000 employees. So we think we can get critical mass. Anyway, those are the kinds of things we're working on, and I'll just hand it over to my co-speakers, and I'd be happy to answer any questions and engage in this dialogue. And thank you, Dr. Sharif, for putting together this wonderful format.
Thank
I'll
you.
stop the chair.
Thank you, Professor Modesma. Mr. Nib Bars and Professor Fred Philip, what you want to discuss for today's session?
I think you're muted, Fred.
I think Professor Fred, you have to join again, but Mr. Nidbar, you can discuss about futuristic educations.
Sure. So, as you mentioned earlier, my name is Inf Barfield. I am a member of a fellow at Tando, but I also founded and run a social enterprise called Elysian Trust. Matter of fact, I think I should be able to share screen. One moment. And you should be seeing my screen right now. Is that true?
Not yet.
Okay.
Oh, there it is.
All right. Excellent. I guess there's a slight delay. So, Elysian Trust, and forgive me, I'm battling a cold right now. Elysian Trust is a passion project that I started in 2017. The organization came out of the high IQ community. I was a member of various high IQ clubs, Mensa, Intertel, Triple Nine Society, Prometheus Society, and so on. And for at least from my standpoint, they never got around to actually doing what their official mission was, which was to foster intelligence. Um, and then as years progressed, I realized that what we're calling IQ may be quite limiting to what all is out there in terms of cognitive diversity. So Elysian Trust wound up actually creating quite a few societies underneath us called, and they each tap into a cognitive ability. You see Bowen's the High IQ Club, Interbank's Creative Thinking, Solar's Critical Thinking, Collaborative Intelligence would be Hard Problems Club, Wavelength is Emotional Intelligence, and then there's Trishula that's for Intuition. We have approximately 600 members. The very, very, very high majority of us are what you would call neurodivergent, including me, um, and we learn differently. That's not a bad thing, especially as the future of education becomes more nebulous and we're seeing the traditional model break down. Um, so that's the general philosophy. Now, what do we do? So, our organization, we actually offer quite a few services for our members because keep in mind they think differently. So, about I guess you could. It's not quite half down the middle, but you can pretty much delineate it that way. And so about half of them are there for academic pursuits, and the others they have some genius project or idea that they want to work on. That if it's supported, we can actually see them be in a position to where they can build up whatever subdivided community they come from. They're actually an untapped resource that we can help refine and honestly truly build up their community from within. Um, on the business accelerator side, no doubt about it, it's largely fundraising that most people need. So we've raised approximately like $52 million for various people's projects, and they've in return been able to help a tremendous amount of people, even though it's such a small number of members in our group. On the academic side, we have members who are quite diverse. Some of them would have been labeled as slow learners. Some of them would have been labeled as accelerated learners in the traditional school model. But working with us, they all actually accelerate. So we have like a 16-year-old attorney. We have a high school dropout who actually wound up becoming a software engineer for Microsoft and so on. The experiment is still going on and it's still developing, but that's the gist of it. And I'm looking forward to answering any questions anyone may have.
I have a quick question. Can you
Yes,
tell us some of the genius projects you're working on?
sure. So there is a artificial intelligence program that helps predict where missing people can be found. Um, Most people are unaware of this, but they're unfortunately um, cold cases when it comes to finding missing people is really, really low, very low success rate after the first 48 hours. We're talking maybe, I think it's something like 0.5%. Um, our, and it's actually even worse on for certain demographics like the on tribal reservations. It's actually much worse. and much worse for indigenous women. As just one example, our system, it's been able, or not our system, the system that we're working with when we're members, they've been able to actually increase the success rate to it's closing in on 10%, even if we're talking years ago. That I know that sounds small, but that's such a huge gain because you're talking literally over 10 times the success rate. Another client is working on food scarcity. I say client, but he's also a member. Um, he's his background is engineering. He's developed a um, a product that actually can fit in pretty much anyone's backyard. It's very close to being a completely closed system that can produce quite a bit of vegetation and even meat for a family of six. He already has secured contracts in areas where there are food deserts, especially in Arizona. It's definitely going to expand because, unfortunately, food scarcity looks like it's going to be an issue, probability wise. Those are two examples. I could go on. I do not want to take up everyone's time, but it gives you a gist of what we've been doing.
Thank you. Thank you. You know that I'm from emerging economy. I'm from different world and different perspective, and we have millions of people. Still, we need to improve the internet connections. We need better classrooms. Uh, there is a millions of people I know. Still, they need to engage with the technology and technological field.
Mhm.
Especially last month, I was in Dubai when I attended the Dubai Knowledge conference. I find that in terms of knowledge index, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, we have to improve a lot. So
Mhm.
that's why we need uh, more support from developed nations with modern technology. And we have to integrate the technology. So, what do you think? AI tutors uh, can be helpful for our education system. I know that we have lack of quality teachers.
Mhm.
Uh, is it helpful? What do you think? And the same question I have for Professor Frederick.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'll take
Uh,
the first. Uh,
okay, okay, yeah,
yeah.
sure.
So yes, I think AI tutors are very useful, but there are actually two areas that I think would be three areas that would be most useful for an emerging economy. The first one would be actually AI in healthcare. According to new research, basically these generative AI techniques can release about 3 hours a day per doctor if they use them, which would enable them to basically double the number of patients they can treat. So, focusing on these technologies for healthcare in emerging economies could actually multiply the healthcare resources. The second one is yes, I think general education tutors. Uh, but what we've noticed is the biggest problem isn't the unavailability of content. There's like YouTubes that teach everything. The two areas that we need, one is the impact of a caring teacher who believes in you. And that's what we want to try to replicate, but not with um, an AI system that teaches greater EQ to peer coaches so that they can support each other. The other thing we think we need, at least in the US, there's a lot of ADHD or neurodivergence in attention span. So we have a course called Focus Lab, which is based on mindfulness training that can help increase the length of attention span so that the diversion thought is held off long enough so that you can stay focused on what you're doing. So basically, if your divergence thought is less than 30 seconds, you'll think about something else. But if you can extend that just a few seconds, over 30 seconds, it tends to refocus on itself and produce it. And we've had very interesting effects with large enterprises where they're having creative blocks. By applying this system, it seems to help them get projects done faster. And the third area I think that's most important for emerging economies is to apply something like BrainstormBot to the entrepreneurial field to improve the quality of the ventures. I've actually done a lot of work with emerging economy innovation, and they tend to have ideas that aren't as good as the US simply because they haven't learned certain skills around design thinking and customer centric analysis. If they're taught these things like lean startup and customer-centric thinking, they can actually produce ideas that are as good as the US. So we spend a lot of our time doing that, and we're hoping we can install BrainstormBot in a number of emerging economies at a discounted price for every startup in that country. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Nate.
Yeah, honestly, I agree with pretty much everything Moses said. The only thing I would add to that is, at least for Elysian, we're pursuing two routes here. One, we want to make sure that a lot of the engineers who are creating the AI come from the populations who are supposed to benefit from it. Because what we have seen time and time again is when the engineers come from one demographic and it's supposed to benefit everyone, it really doesn't. And there winds up being a lot of surprising biases and often quite deadly, and often just incredibly inconvenient. So that's our first strategy: is to find the talented potential engineers in various countries. And even though we're small, we do have members. We have like a 24-year-old member from Zimbabwe, just to give you an example. Like I said, we're quite diverse. Secondly, um, a lot of our members, including me, we're already figuring out how to use AI to teach ourselves things at a much accelerated pace. Um, I am Afro Latino, but my family is very much lean way more towards the African American side of things. Never really learned Spanish until I dated someone, which I learned much faster with her than I did with all the years of school. However, with AI, I have the time and resources to learn another language much faster than ever before. So while it took me several years to learn Spanish that way, I was able to teach myself, at least reading and writing. Pronunciation is a little bit different. I was able to teach myself Norwegian extremely quickly. We have a lot of Norwegian members, looking into moving there. So I'm now in discussion forums where everyone speaks Norwegian. Very few of them are even aware that I'm actually not a native speaker. It's just because I could use AI to learn the way I knew I could learn, and they never would teach me in school. I was like, it's much easier for me to learn the grammar first, the rules of the grammar of the new language, and then the vocabulary, and then it's just plug and play. Never would do that. So it was just amazing. So those are two routes we're going. Again, I'm not unique. There's quite a few members in our group who are learning quite a bit. It's fascinating to see the knowledge transfer between us. We're like, hey, you could try this. Really fast way to learn. Actually, one additional thing: as AI advances, a lot of our members are thinking maybe it's time to befriend it now, and trying to figure out the best way to like, should we treat them like humans now, or should they even be invited? If there's a lot of AI programs, should we even create a group for that? And to learn the human interactions in a more organic sense, rather than something that's probably not going to be as coherent in terms of policy making. I hope that answers your question and gives you a good sense of what we're doing.
Thank you, Professor Fred. What you want to discuss about futuristic education?
I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah, I took the question of the day to be more broad about the future of education. I will address AI as part of this. And the comments I prepared are a bit lengthy, so if it's time to cut me off, Sharif, don't hesitate to do so. By way of introduction, Nymph and I are both fellows of the Tondo Institute, which is a nonprofit think tank spun out of the University of Texas at Austin some years back. And we are system-oriented, interdisciplinary, and oriented to attacking big problems through a combination of advanced technology and deep understanding about how society's values change in concert with the progress of technology. So my experience is as a university teacher and administrator. So I'll have only a few words about elementary education, then I'll go ahead and talk about universities. And I can lay out the challenges for future education, but I will have very few solutions here. Now, I think it's become evident to everybody in the developed countries how valuable pre-K education is. And we need to make sure that quality pre-K is available to all children. In K-12, well, it was clear now that the pandemic set back the kids' education by a year or more. The loss of socialization harmed the kids, and not only harmed their individual learning, but in the long run harms our national competitiveness in STEM and the arts and so forth. So the big challenge is going to be how to keep kids safe from disease and safe from violence while still allowing them to play together, to learn together. And the Tondo Institute did issue a white paper on school shootings. No solution there, but hope that it helps contribute to the discussion. I have two daughters, both very bright. The younger one went to Montessori school. The benefit to her was just stupendous. And it would be great to see the Montessori approach filter into other modes of K-12 education. There's another innovation that happened accidentally when I was in elementary school that I think may be useful also. My sixth grade teacher was quite elderly. I should say that I was always frustrated and bored by the math modules in elementary education. They called it math. It was just arithmetic, and it was horribly boring. In sixth grade, the directive came down to teach something called the new math. And my sixth grade teacher couldn't comprehend it. She said, "Here's the books. You guys teach it to each other," which we did to great success. And that was probably instrumental in me becoming later on a mathematics major in college. So telling the class to teach each other has a future. Now, alternative universities. And one problem universities have, among many, is that there are many alternatives to university education these days. We're seeing the beginning of a resurgence of vocational education. The importance of community colleges is getting more widely recognized. This is wonderful and useful. I think the trend should continue. Other people learn from the Khan Academy, from free MOOCs, from hiring business coaches as alternatives to enrolling at university, and sometimes much cheaper alternatives. So the university is going to have to face that they will have declining enrollments because of these alternatives. And the challenge will be to learn how to partner with or how to complement these alternatives. Online learning has definite limitations just at the collegiate level, just as it does at the K-12 level, because the university is there for socialization, for students to learn to communicate with and get along with people who are very different from the people in their hometown where they went to high school. I'll come back to that point later on. The other thing that has to be developed further in universities, a long time ago, Bertrand Russell, the philosopher, said that lectures are an outmoded learning mechanism. Well, in a way, we could say that higher education reached its peak when Aristotle sat on a log expounding to a single student sitting at the other end of the log. Then another student joined, and another, and it's been downhill from there for the succeeding centuries. But experiential learning has to take a bigger place in university education. So let me say a few words about universities and politics. We're seeing a rise of authoritarian regimes around the world, and authoritarian regimes are notoriously anti-science and anti-education, because educated people can know how to oppose such regimes. And we see what's happening in Florida with gutted university curricula and the flight of top professors from that state. Now, in contrast to Florida, left-wing extremists can be authoritarian too, and they can twist the university's priorities as well. So the independence of universities, uh, despite scandals at self-governed universities, really remains important. And the universities face a really important, really dangerous catch-22, and that is that politicians think government should be smaller and the universities waste taxpayers' money, public universities. So they put new rules in place that raises the university's compliance costs, and in a self-fulfilling prophecy, both the universities and the governments incur higher costs, and politicians say, see, and the cycle continues. So more about university finances then. There's a lot of procurement waste. There's a lot of procurement corruption in universities, as well as the trend to signing restrictive and harmful exclusive procurement contracts like my former university has with Microsoft. I won't go into the evil consequences of that, but there are many. And while we're on the topic of university IT departments tend to be the worst because the IT staff wants to get higher paying jobs in industry. So they overemphasize computer security to the expense of professorial productivity because it's easier to talk to prospective employers about what they did on the security front than something that private employers won't care about, which is professors' productivity. In all areas, IT and others, the universities suffer from what economists call the Baumol paradox. Baumol's paradox is that productivity rises slower in service industries like universities and others than it does in manufacturing industries. So salaries rise slower in the service industries, causing an exodus of service industry employees to the manufacturing sector. And when universities outsource services, like one university I was at did with enterprise resource systems, things that the computer science of the university could very well have developed for themselves, the costs go up inexorably. And the paradox leads to ultimately to broke and closed universities. State universities could do more with technology commercialization and entrepreneurship, but the presidents of state universities hesitate to make too much money from their technology transfer offices, because if the state legislature sees that they're making too much off of commercialization, then the state appropriation will decrease in the next state budget year. This is obviously harmful for the progress of technology and for prospects of students and professors to start their own companies. All right, so it's not just the feds, but the state governments too that present more and more rules to the university. These raise the university's compliance costs, and more administrators have to be hired to effect the compliance. And so we have administrative bloat in the universities, and it raises tuition costs, making university attendance more difficult for students. The founder of our institute, in addition to being a legendary business dean was the investment advisor to the entire University of Texas system, to the Board of Regents. And he diversified the university's investments into the technology sector. And this was all to the good, but it doesn't change the fact that the original investment capital came from the university's endowment, which, what was that endowment? Big oil lands in West Texas. So the prospect of the university truly aiding the energy transition by divesting from petroleum, at least in the case of the University of Texas, forget about it. Companies want the university to graduate job-ready graduates. This is because despite that free enterprise-oriented CEOs want to say, oh, we did it all ourselves, nonetheless, their boards will give them bonuses if they can get something free from the government. So they pressure the universities to provide job training, specific job training that they should really provide as employee training within the company. And we have yet to find a balance for that. Okay, let me come back to AI. Push back gently against some of the wonderful things that my co-panelists have said. AIs are really good at facts. They can even now come up with original proofs for mathematical theorems. So, yeah, we're all going to resist if colleges were to stop teaching us how to prove math theorems and so forth, to stop teaching us facts. But if each faction, human and machine, is going to do what it does best, then let's consider, should we leave facts and engineering to the machines and teach human students judgment, citizenship, humanity, ethics, and of course, source checking and fact checking. So the economic theory of comparative advantage should say that maybe we should do that instead of trying to bend AI more to the humanistic side. So I don't have a firm conclusion on that, but I want to present that as an alternative to what we heard otherwise this morning. So we can we begin to see a resurgence of the humanities in university education, even though some cash-strapped universities have been eliminating their humanities colleges and humanities departments. So as always, the challenge for the university is how to balance whole person education on the one hand and preparation for the workforce on the other hand. Another balancing act for the university is to offer networking or to offer education. Some people say it's not what you know, it's who you know. Certainly the graduates of the Ivy Leagues go to Washington and make an impenetrable clique that the graduates of the state schools find it hard to penetrate. And oh, before I forget, something Nth said about engineers from the communities that are supposed to benefit. I worked in Oregon with the inventor of the pulse oximeter, you know, the thing you clip on your finger to, yeah. He got a lot of fame, a lot of money from that, only to discover years later that the gadget doesn't work on people with darker skin. So I think that story supports what you just said. Okay, I want to finish by pointing up a few elements of the dark side of this, and that will present further challenges for our discussion. All right, what's happening at Harvard and MIT right now? At MIT, big scandal about the source of funding for the energy project at MIT. and the bias, the resulting bias of results. Harvard, um, DEI controversies, anti-Semitism, um, could DEI programs taken too far? This is why critics have called these institutions hedge funds with colleges attached for tax purposes. Um, I think we'll see students look at that, say, why should I pay these outlandish tuitions? And they will turn to the state institutions instead. I say that with a certain bias because I think I got a perfectly adequate education at the University of Texas, and I don't regret for a moment not going to Harvard. Sometimes I do regret for a moment not going to MIT, but another story. Another element of the dark side is unregulated homeschooling taken over by religious extremist parents who are not preparing children to function in the world at all. Another thing is dark side is the suppression of traditional and indigenous knowledge and languages. The Indian schools in Canada, the Dakotas, and here where I live in New Mexico are all now, to some extent of sincerity or not, trying to make amends for destroying the lives and languages of the indigenous students. The misuse of AI is going to be another prominent element of the dark side. And finally, I opened State University of New York's campus in South Korea some years ago, and made me think hard about the merits and demerits of universities from America, the UK, Australia, Canada, opening campuses in the Far East and other places. And I worked at Maastricht School of Management in the Netherlands that had 30 partner institutions in many countries in the developing world. So are these ventures justified, or are they another kind of imperialism? Definitely they have all experienced a great many intercultural screw-ups. The one I started in Korea is still going strong. The one that Yale started in Singapore has been withdrawn as far as I know. And others, George Mason opened in the Emirates somewhere and struggles with great culture shock. And at the Maastricht School, we had some serious, but in retrospect, very comical intercultural gaffes, and involving spiriting an American professor out of Kuwait on the midnight flight in disguise. So I have to leave you with the question of what is the justification, the true justification for these overseas ventures? Okay, thank you for letting me take your time with all these musings about the future of education.
Thank you. As we are introducing a new analytical tool, I'm just introducing these tools with our audience, and the audience can give their vote, and we can understand how you understand today's discussion. Thank you. Professor Mudisma, I want to give you a chance, like what you want to analyze, how AI and human can make more effective education system. And Professor Fred actually bring many interesting issues of the education system. So what do you think?
Yeah, there's three things I wanted to mention to Fred about the power of lectures. I got my bachelor's at Caltech, and when I was a freshman sitting in Richard Feynman's Physics X class, the thought I had is, this is Aristotle, right? It was amazing what he could do to sparkle the room and to just make people think harder. And it was really an amazing experience. And that's what we need are teachers who can teach how to think. rather than just relate stuff to learn. So I think that's one point. The second one is a quote from Voltaire about politics, which is every time you build a school, you close a prison. So it's pretty easy to figure out what kind of politician you're dealing with if he wants to build more private prisons or more public schools. Um, and the third one is I wanted to relate this one story about the X factor in all of this is that people aren't accounting for how adaptive the human brain is. My favorite story about human potential is in 1905, the world land speed record was broken by a guy who drove 69 miles an hour in his new steam powered car. And he was considered an absolute daredevil because no human being had ever driven that fast before. And the year after, when cars started getting introduced, it was a few years after when cars were being introduced into the US. Uh, a doctor testified to Congress that the national speed limit should be 5 miles an hour because human beings weren't built to drive any faster than that and would eventually go insane if they were subjected to these high speed things. But the reality is today, human beings can drive 70 miles an hour while drinking a cup of coffee. It's like no big deal. And what I point out to people is it didn't take 100 years for the human brain to evolve to do that. All it took was the belief that you could do that and then driver training. A few months of driver training would do that and you develop the skill. I think that human beings will be able to be a lot more like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk because they'll be naturally innovative and be able to come up with stuff. But what they need is the equivalent of driver training, the equivalent of vocational education for innovation. So those are the points I wanted to add. Fred, what do you think of those points?
I think we were terrifically lucky to be in finance class. And
Yeah.
yes, I've had teachers who were excellent lecturers and many more who were just drones. And I think the effort with the MOOCs has been to cherry pick the excellent lecturers and put them in front of thousands of students. Now, if that's going to really help the students or not, I wonder, because you get people in too large groups. But in any case, yes. Now, driving on the highway at high speed, I think, can induce insanity. You often hear people say, "Oh, I got here late. I'm sorry, but the traffic was insane." But yes, of course, I accept your point.
Thank you. Mr. Nidbar, what you want to discuss especially?
Um, so Fred focused on higher education. I'll focus on K through 12. Um, at least in the United States, to me, it's very obvious that our educational system has less to do about teaching students how to think and learn and more to be a workforce. I'm not entirely sure if that is an effective model going forward very soon. What I would love to see is for basic education to teach emotional intelligence and critical thinking, because right now what we need more than anything are is a voting population that can't be bamboozled. They cannot be emotionally hijacked. They can juggle multiple factors at once and keep them in the right priority. Additionally, the third thing I would add is I strongly believe it's time to make it to where school teaches kids how to learn. Our system it never actually teaches that. It teaches them how to memorize, but that's not the same thing as learning. Additionally, what I've seen over and over and over again, and I'm sure most of you have seen this as well, is that like the way standardized admissions testing is done, it's almost set up to create a social hierarchy in the competition, and I can see that being changed. Instead of trying to figure out who deserves to go to the school what about a test that teaches the student how they learn teaches a university is like, okay, if we accept the student, we'll know how to teach them instead of trying to screen out like, oh, okay, we're going to make sure we have the specific quota, or yeah, we only want kids who only have this cutoff. Um, I do think the landscape is changing incredibly quickly, probably faster than I would say the vast majority of humans are ready for, and will probably willfully slow it down, even though that trend is going to accelerate no matter what. So I'm looking forward to seeing more innovation coming out of just the human populace in terms of not just learning and those fundamentals I mentioned, but also just making sure that we have a whole citizen, because I think that's what we're going to need more than anything. I'm not even sure there's going to be enough labor to go around with the advent of AI. I think way more jobs, they could have been automated a long time ago. They were artificially held back just because we needed the work. Um, and we also have to start doing a real examination of our priorities. Unfortunately, like I love what Moses mentioned earlier about private schools or prisons. Unfortunately, I think we need to investigate why at least the United States, it has the largest incarceration rate of its own members than any country except for, I believe, North Korea. Um, and additionally, we need to look at. It seems like, at least from what I can tell, we aren't having that conversation about how a large chunk of our industries, from Walmart to Kroger's to a lot of companies, they still rely on free prison labor. It has replaced slave labor. It's like we never figured out how to create an economy that doesn't rely on free workers that have no choice but to work. So I'd like to see that change as well. Um, I mean, that's the summary. I hope that makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. Professor Fred, what's your closing remarks for today?
I think that the last few remarks really point to the necessity for universities not just to graduate smart people, especially smart doctoral graduates, but who are capable of doing good research. But I, for example, graduated PhD with nobody ever telling me how to be a good lecturer. And we should really have a class on that, because at the undergraduate level, I was so turned off by the Jones who were teaching. Oh, my history prof. Oh God, he would put you to sleep. So yeah, we need to graduate people who will, be able to keep their kids awake in their classes. Other than that, yeah, we're going to have a lot to figure out about about AI. Um, it's not only AI that can hallucinate and come up with erroneous facts. I had to share this week with my successors as editor of the journal, Technological Forecasting and Social Change. This article that came out in Science magazine about the S-curve shaped growth of paper mills and places, actual companies where you can buy authorship of a research paper or buy an entire research paper and put your name on it. And this is causing a huge amount of upset in the academic publishing industry. And, it's got nothing necessarily to do with AI at all. So it takes me back to that bumper sticker we used to see, which said, to err is human, to really screw up requires a computer.
Thank you. Professor Modesma, what's your closing remarks for today?
Let me just share one more thing. Where is it? Here. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, the closing thought I had is we need to teach people to have greater EQ, which is the number one thing I think that humanity needs. And the easiest way to do that is to see ourselves as a tribe facing the digital ice age. So the way humans survived the digital ice age is that you joined the tribe and the tribe had your back, and that people would teach each other how to use fire and how to use things like that. So what we'd like to do is help people find their AI tribe. So anyway, if you want to find out more, you can join aimastermind.team. So if you join our team, we can talk to you about this and what we're working on. And that's, it's a huge and a very interesting topic. And I wanted to thank Dr. Sharif for convening this panel. I've really enjoyed listening and hearing your viewpoints.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Nit, you want to add any point?
I the only thing I want to add is I think I've spoken enough, but what I'm learning to do more and more is to listen. So I'd love to hear back from your audience to this. What are their questions? What are their suggestions? If they don't feel like sharing it on, I'm assuming this is going to be on the YouTube channel. If they don't feel like sharing it there, by all means, email me. I'm very receptive to ideas, to thoughts, to concerns, and figuring out how to factor them because I'm just one person. I can't see and know everything, and that's the case for everyone. So the more people we have at the table chiming in and sharing what it is they know and feel, I think we're going to be okay. And if you can reach me, it's on the website, legiontrust.org. You can go to info@legiontrust.org or inf@legiontrust.org. Either one I'll see. And I look forward to hearing from everyone.
Thank you. This is our today's topic, shaping the future of education, the collaborative power of human and artificial intelligence. I want to give thanks all of our speakers, our audience. Audience can give their vote. We can analyze their vote and analyze all of their understanding, how they understanding today's discussion, and we will produce report and share with our team. So thank you, Professor Fred. Thank you, Mr. Neat, and thank you, Professor Modesma, for your continuous support for World Talent Economic Forum. I request all of our audience, please share our content with the government agency, corporation, and academia. And you know that we'll be very happy that World Talent Economic Forums, we are developing our research lab and institutions in with North South University, with with Western University of Western Australia, Curtin University, National University Singapore, and SP Jayan Dubai. So hopefully your continuous support will be helpful for emerging economy. We need to work together and we need to solve all of the complex problem around the world. Thank you. Bye bye and take care.
Thank you.